So what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video where today I wanted to talk about something really, I guess, interesting, intriguing, kind of a 180 from Treyarch, where they've said something in the past. We all believed it, and I guess at the time it was true. This was many years ago during BO4, and all of a sudden, now in Vanguard, they've kind of gone back on their word. With the latest Zombies map, Shi No Numa Reborn, there are loads of different radios in this map. Honestly, half of them aren't very interesting. As I've mentioned many times before, I'm not really interested in the story in Vanguard. I have listened to every single radio, which is the way that the story is being delivered in this game. That is also how it was delivered partly in other games as well, along with cutscenes, which I'm not going to call the one in Vanguard a cutscene. Also, character quotes. Again, we don't have a set cast in this game. So the major way that the story is being told is through these radios, which is fine if they're interesting, but honestly, half of them are absolute dross. A few are important, but just not really interesting. And I would say there are one or two that are probably worth taking a closer look at. So that's what I wanted to do in this video, because like I said, Treyarch have done a 180, which could have since Vanguard is a part of our zombie storyline. Vanguard is connected to Cold War, it takes place before that game. Cold War is connected to BO4, 3, 2, and 1, and World at War. Cold War takes place after those games. So every Treyarch Zombies iteration that we have are all connected in one way or another, meaning these new implications affect everything that we know, which is, for me at least, the reason why this is the tiniest bit interesting. If it didn't connect, then I probably wouldn't make this video. And just speaking about that, I am still ill, so when the next video is going to be after this one, I don't know. It could be a week, 2 weeks, a month, I don't know. But this one combined with the short review of Shi No Numa I made last week were just two videos I wanted to make on this new map. That's probably all I'm going to do for coverage on it, because there's really not much else. But anyway, let's take a look. So within Shi No Numa, there is a radio that we find from Dr. Kraft where he mentions the name Alistair. Now, if you are I would say sort of a hardcore fan of the zombie story, just because this links into the Chaos timeline, and I know a lot of people that are a fan of zombies aren't really too familiar with the Chaos story, so you may or may not have heard this name, but Alistair is someone that was a part of the Chaos timeline. He had a pretty big role to play. He was the father of Scarlet. But the reason why this has such a big impact is because we were told from the very beginning during BO4 that the Chaos story wasn't linked to the Aether storyline. They were two totally separate timelines. There was absolutely no connection at all. Yet, here we are, years later, in a timeline that connects to the Aether one. Technically, this one is called the Dark Aether timeline. And we are hearing a name that was a part of the Chaos story. But we were told that the two aren't connected. So, what's going on? And this is the first time we've heard this.
Kraft to Special Forces. I have an update about that page from the Tome of Rituals that you fought so hard to obtain. Bellica and I have completed our study of its contents, and it appears we struck gold, as the Americans are fond of saying. The page recounts how a group of priests and officials in Okinawa Prefecture banded together to save their lords from what they considered demonic possession. In fact, this man had bonded with Syraxis, much the same way that you are currently bonded to your ethereal allies. They arranged a visit to the swampy island where you now find yourselves, and ambushed him with a special relic, while the page gives specific instructions on the use of that relic to sever the bond between a Dark Aether entity and its human host. It gives no description of the relic itself. It reminds me of when I studied the writings of Alistair Rhodes, an amateur demonologist and personal hero of mine. Rhodes wrote about different objects of power that he called Sentinel artifacts, but I was never able to find out exactly what they were. Nevertheless, if we can find the relic we seek at Shi No Numa, I am quite certain I can use it on Von List and trap Cortifex in that little scepter of his.
So as you just heard from Kraft, he said, it reminds me of when I studied the writings of Alistair Rhodes, an amateur demonologist and personal hero of mine. Rhodes wrote about different objects of power that he called Sentinel artifacts, but I was never able to find out exactly what they were. So we've got Kraft talking about Alistair Rhodes, saying that actually he's not just a character mentioned on our timeline, but he's also an important figure. Just like Dr. Kraft, Alistair Rhodes was also a demonologist. A lot of what we see in the Vanguard story revolves around demonology. Kraft also mentions the Sentinel artifacts, which in the Chaos story we know were created by the group known as Nine, and it was used to harness the power of Prime Materia, which, going off memory, created the undead, along with other things. But you can see for a couple of reasons, this is not only interesting but also contradictory in my opinion, because even though there were a few similarities between the Chaos story and the Aether story, such as, I don't know, both of them had a mystery box, perks, even though they were presented in different ways, there were similarities, but a lot of the main things, such as how the zombies came to be, were totally different. In Aether, it was 115 that created the undead. In the Dark Aether timeline, Black Ops Cold War, we had Ethereum or Exo-Element 1, or Vogelium, whatever you want to call it, and the Dark Aether. And then in Vanguard Zombies, we have Cortifex. He is the one who is raising the dead in this game. The Chaos story also involved mythology. We had Pegasus, gods from different cultures, we had Greek, Irish, Norse. None of that, as far as we are aware or were aware, is involved in the Dark Aether or the Aether timeline. So we had no reason to believe that these timelines were connected, but we can see in Vanguard we're being told that actually they are. I suppose the big question is, were they involved all along, or is it only now in Vanguard that they're connected? Were they connected in Cold War? And well, if we listen to what Jason Blundell told us in an interview for Zombies Chronicles, I think it was, during BO3, or it might have been BO4. Actually, it definitely would have been BO4, because he's talking about Chaos. He told us that those timelines aren't connected.
Why is now a good time to start a new chapter in Zombies? Why now?
Well, for multiple reasons. First one being that the Aether story we've been telling for the last 10 years. So that is incredibly complicated, incredibly involved, and actually our fan base loved that about it. But there's a part of our community who've come in a little bit later on. It's almost unfair to them to be able to kind of jump into that 10-year story and kind of find their footing. So we felt that now was a perfect time to start a new story. The time is right because as we were making the 10-year story, we'd have ideas that we'd like, oh, we could put that in, but it felt like we were jamming it in. So we had all these great ideas that started just stacking up on one side. The Aether story got to a certain point, which was kind of critical. I can't kind of go into too much detail, but I was like, okay, now is a good time. We've got all these great ideas here. Let's start afresh. And that means we can also not only kind of cater to our 10-year fan base, but also a new fan base that's starting as well.
Are the two stories connected in any way? Is it a clean break?
They are not connected. They're not connected. They're not connected in any way. They are two separate stories completely. So no one believes me, by the way. No one believes me. I've said this out now multiple times. I even said it to your camera. I've said it multiple times. They are not connected.
So basically, because I do believe at the time of BO4 when Chaos was new, Jason wasn't lying. Their intention wasn't to connect these two timelines. I just think there's too many differences between the two. But we know now that Jason has left. He was a big part of that story, along with Craig Houston, who still is here. And as you heard from that interview, it was very clear, even from the ending of Ancient Evil, that the Chaos story was supposed to continue, but didn't. However, it seems like, to me at least, because the Chaos story was supposed to continue, because Jason has left now, and because of the downfall of Vanguard, I think Treyarch have gone, you know what, why don't we spice things up, and instead of letting the Chaos story go to waste because it was supposed to continue, why not connect it? That wasn't their original plan, but Treyarch have done a U-turn, and all of a sudden now, Chaos is connected to the Dark Aether timeline, which in turn connects it to everything else in Zombies. Cold War, BO4, 3, 2, and 1. Unless the only thing I would say is maybe one way or another, it only specifically connects to Vanguard. I couldn't tell you the Curse storyline off the top of my head. That's something that's a distant memory to me. Because I haven't covered it for so long, I probably also couldn't tell you half the things that took place in BO4, 3, 2, or 1 Zombies. So I couldn't begin to pick out each and every detail as to why this wouldn't work, or shouldn't make sense. But it's official. The Chaos timeline is now connected to Vanguard, and possibly the Aether timeline as well. So yeah, there we go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I don't really know what to think about this, but if they do go on to explain it better in the future, I do hope this also isn't the last time we hear about it, but I'd be interested to hear what you guys think, so there we go. Drop a like rating if you've enjoyed, make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.